The internet. Yep, the namesake of this channel. More than likely, in one way or another, you're using it every day for just about everything. Looking up the weather, hanging out with your friends, or getting your butt handed to you by some 12-year-old in an online game. It's basically become a staple in our day-to-day. But what if I told you that internet access around the world isn't equal? I myself am from America, where we have very little restriction on what we're shown and can access when browsing. Sure, we're obviously not allowed to do anything illegal, but we're uncensored. A lot of the world also follows this suit, giving internet access to its people without much in the way of controlling what they can or can't interact with. But others, which may surprise some people, are very, very different. So I want to explore a few different regions and places on the globe, and touch on what the internet might be like elsewhere. Or maybe you're from one of these countries and this is your everyday experience with the internet. And I'm going to start off with a really big one. China. They have one of the most restricted and censored forms of internet access, basically on Earth, on par with North Korea's. Every major app that you may be familiar with is most likely illegal in China, and well, the government supervises and allows its own versions of those apps instead, ones that they can keep an eye on you with. Using Discord to message somebody? Well, they'll use WeChat. A quick Venmo to a friend after dinner? How about WeChat Pay? And it doesn't stop there. This super app has just about everything. It's where you use your GPS, so you're constantly being tracked and monitored. And how about dining or movie reviews? Because it'll be checking what you're consuming and what your interests are. And, well, just about everything else you'd want to do is all done through this one singular app, approved and maintained by the government. With the help of our good friend Tencent. Yeah, that Tencent. It's a bit scary to think about, but there's always a way around it, and you've probably heard about them all over YouTube already. VPNs. And no, I'm not sponsored, so don't worry, there's no ad coming. People in China wanting to get access to the uncensored version of the internet are forced to use one, although it's very illegal to use or promote the use of one. They have hilarious code words to ask their friends for one over the normal tracked services that they use. Like, they'll use the Chinese word for ladder in reference to how they'd like to get over the Great Firewall. Or my favorite, asking for Vietnamese pho noodles. You know, a hot bowl of VPN. Like I said, China is the biggest example, and in my opinion, the most scary. China doesn't mess around with that stuff at all. As one last example, according to a Google search, dispersing and distributing adult content can land you life in prison. And surprisingly, they're not the only country who's taken a stance against hanky-panky videos. South Korea is another world power that's taken a stance against it, and it's completely illegal to watch, film, or distribute anything considered adult entertainment there. Which is surprising, considering outside of that, they're pretty uncensored. Except the fact that in order to play video games in South Korea, you do need to sign up with your social security number, but that's a whole other video. Touching on a few other parts of Asia, Japan has a totally free internet. Not counting that censorship, but we're not going to get into that right now either. Southeast Asia is a very mixed bag, and if you're planning on visiting, I definitely check to see what may or may not be allowed there. For example, where Thailand is very restrictive, the Philippines is a bit more relaxed. The Middle East, though, I'm sure it comes to little surprise, they have a stronger stance on controlling what media is allowed there. Countries like Afghanistan, Oman, and Jordan all heavily censor things like social media and political propaganda, where places like Pakistan and Iran straight up ban it. It's a spectrum of what people in power do and do not want you to see, and I do think there's an argument on both sides. However, I think the motives behind why are a completely different story. But again, different video. This all only touches the tip of the iceberg, where exploring one end of the spectrum, let's say China, North Korea, could be just as interesting as exploring, let's say, North America or Australia, which are mostly untouched. And that's what it is, a spectrum. And I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks about all of this. Maybe you think a little bit of censorship is good. Maybe too much access could be a negative thing. Or maybe you're for a completely free internet. Let me know, because I'm genuinely interested. With all that said, thank you so much for taking a dive into this with me. Apparently, if this video gets big enough, I could be banned from China. So let's make that happen. I think that'll look really good on a resume. I'm a brand new YouTuber just getting a start, so if you've enjoyed this video, a like or subscription would mean the world, and I really appreciate it. But today's lesson on internet accessibility is dismissed. No homework today, so go eat a nice bowl of Vietnamese pho noodles. I'll see you next class.